Hello, Midnight Coders, and welcome to another episode of Spring into Java. All right, so in our last video, we designed our domain model for MediaStack. We created entities, we created repositories, and we even did the scaffolding for our service layer. Today, we are going to start connecting MediaStack to the outside world. All right, so we're going to fetch a real book data from an external API based on its ISBN. So, and to do that, we're going to use Spring Boot's RestClient, and we're going to do it the Spring Boot way. We're going to keep our service layer clean, focused, and testable. So by the end of this video, you will learn how to call an external API properly, how to map that response data into your own domain entities. And we're going to keep your service layer clean and ready for testing. So, by the end of this video, we're going to have MediaStack fetching our real book data and be all ready to persist it to our database. So make sure you have that full cup of coffee, and let's dive on in. Before we write any code, let's define our goal. We want to fetch a book detail based on its ISBN from a public API. For demonstration, we're going to use the Open Library Books API. Now let's dive in. All right. Now, first thing we have to do is list this control because or this config out. Because in here, some of this. Now, in here, we are going to create a new class. Now, in order to show to another API, we first need a type of web client that we can easily use to make HTTP requests with and map the data that we get into something that we actually care about data-wise. We will use REST client as our type-safe client that is also easily able to write tests for. We just configure it once in a file that we annotate with @configuration so that Spring will be able to manage this entity and provide us a reusable bean that we can use throughout our project. So let's create this file. This is a REST client config. We need to annotate this with @configuration. And in here, we're going to have a public REST client. That we're going to have this here, which I'm just going to simply call this a REST client, which is going to return a REST client builder. We're almost there if I can stop goofing up. Okay, so we're almost here. Now, next, we want to define the request factor. And this is going to be a JDK client. We also want to define the default header. We're going to set the content type to that of media type application JSON. And from there, we're going to just build this out. And because we want to use this, I'm going to annotate this as a theme. And that is it for our REST client. Next, we need to create a integration response. So we don't want to map the response JSON directly to our entities, as this will come with some fields, data um, that we don't necessarily want for our rep. So instead, we will create a response model, and this will allow us to take just what we want from the JSON that we received. So by using a annotation JSON ignore properties and telling it that we want to ignore unknown, this means that any field that we do not directly specify in our POJO, we don't care about it, we don't want it. So what does that look like? Well, let's go ahead and create an integration. This is going to be a new Java record of type book API response. Now, this is going to consist of a map. This is going to have a value pair. Key is going to be a string. The value is going to be a book, not the Java book, not the book that we created earlier in our. And we're going to call this books. So next we need to create these inner classes. So we are going to create one here. It's going to be a public record. Um, like that. Okay, Mike. This is going to be a book. We are also going to need a public record author. And we are also going to public record cover. Um, so now for our book, this is going to take in a few things. Have a string, a title. It is going to have a list of authors. We are eventually going to have that, yes. We are also going to have an integer. And this is going to be number of pages. And we are date. Now, we do have to add some annotations here, these two, just because the data that we're getting back, I were bring this up. This is the uh, this information here is what we're getting back. So what we're matching here is title, want, authors is the next element that we want. So we want from here, just the name is all we care about. In here, say string name, all we care about. The next thing that we care about is the number of pages. Notice how this is number underscore of underscore pages. So in here, we have to add a little annotation on here um, that tells this what the JSON property is. So this one is much JSON property of pages. And the next one that I'm looking for is the publication date. Publish date. That one is also going to get annotated the publish date. And from there, the next thing we're looking for is the cover. And the cover is just going to consist of a string small, medium, type, oh goodness, medium, and large. And that will cover the care about. Everything else, we don't really care about, quite frankly. So now, what about that magical annotation I talked about earlier? Because clearly we don't want to do anything with the rest of those. So now we need to add JSON ignore properties, ignore unknown is true. We have to add that here, 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 and here, so that it is on each of those individual classes. Next, we have to step into our service implementation and make use of the REST client that we just created. So we will set up the base URL and then fetch and map the response DT. So let's step back into our service implementation. We are going to first annotate this with wired args constructors so that we don't have to bloat ourselves up with a large constructor. It's going this is going to be a, yes, we are not going to create a REST client. Okay. Now that is going to be automatically injected based off of our here. So the next thing that I want to set is a private final string, and this is going to be the base URL, which is something like that. Base U. Just copy this. Okay, so this is going to be the base URL. So you need to create a way to get get the book based off the. So here we're going to have a var books, which is going to be out of the REST client dot get. Where we're going to then go to the URI base URL And this portion I have typed mainly because of the format, but let's okay. So in here we're going to take the base URL and map that with this base URL. Same thing with the ISBN that we're passing in. We're going to map that into here as our BIB bib key. Um, Next, from here, we now want to retrieve this. I'm going to retrieve the response from it, and I want a body reply, and I want this to be a new parameterized type where it gets fun. This is going to be a map, um, a map of string and book, but not that book, that of book, book API response. Dot. And now, from that, we are going. All right. So this is going to now create a book. This is going to be a new book response of books. And up here with the create book, you need to do some focus pocus. So we're going to create a var yo, which is just going to be the data that we're retrieving, which is going to be from the book data dot books dot get uh, get ISP. Okay. So there we go. That is going to take the yeah. Okay, so that's going to grab the ISBN. It's going to grab the DPO from there, and the next thing that we're looking to do is to book. And now from here, we want to set the ISBN, set the title, uh, set type of book in, set author, which is from name, pages, autofill, set And now we're going to do some actual actual lo- logical checks later. But for now, this is just going to, I guess, bad practice. Um, but we're going to say DPO dot cover dot media. So we should be doing a check to see if some of the other um, some of the other things are there or not. However, for now, for the sake of this, um, we're not. So once we create the book from the response, we're then going to return that book here, which ultimately returns back where have not handled yet. So next, we're going to write a simple REST control, which will ask, which will allow us to ask our project to out a third-party API, get some information back. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. So not doing Kotlin, Java class. This one is a book controller. So this is going to be annotated as a REST controller. I'm also going to have this as, yeah, sure. Also want required args, and this is going slash books here with private book service implementation. Perfect. Make a get mapping, which is response and book, book, and this is going to get book by ISBN. Now, how do we get that? This so that we slash. It's going to be path variable ISBN. Now in here we can path variable. Go. So now I believe all set. We're all set to test this now. So if we now turn this application on, go. All right, application is on and started. Fire up an endpoint, drop this baby down, take a look into here. Yes, we want this. No, I don't want your information. I want my own ID that I'm putting in. Internal error. Seems to be where I with scheme. Okay. That might be my poor choice of that is probably my poor choice here. It's this. this and just ignore that. Simply see what that is. Run our application. Endpoint. Once again, this. Get this. Got a 200 OK. We have a book written by the author Ronald. Cover image. ID is null because we're not persisting it. And go a little further. There we go. See that the publication year, which we have to straighten that out. It's not year, it's publication date. But either way, it was October 1st of 19. And the title of this book is Fantastic Mr. Fox, which has a total page number of 96. You did it. Get it. Pat yourself on the back, guys. Fully understood this. Hit a like. Hit that thumbs up button. At this point, we've configured our REST client for external API calls. We've updated our service layer to fetch book data and created ourselves an endpoint that we can actually test this. So, in the next video, we're going to take advantage of our repository. We'll set up the properties file so that we can configure the settings, have an in-memory database. We're going to persist the books that we want to our list. We will also validate that we're not going to make modifications in our database. And then we will see multiple ways to our database. Spring Boot makes this process elegant and maintainable. Made it this far. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you've learned something. And if you did, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to learn more, remember to smash that subscribe button, turn on notifications so that you don't miss out on a future video. If you happen to know, and if you happen to know a friend that may find this series useful, then remember to share it as it'll help us reach more developers. And as always, keep your curiosity open, your skills sharp, that coffee cup full. Catch you in the next